Noviana, and welcome to my channel. This is my series on r/WhereAreAllTheGoodMen, which is basically a very misogynistic subreddit where guys make fun of women's Tinder bios, shame women for sleeping around or for being single mothers, and where they complain that women won't sleep with them. So the post for this video is basically an essay written by a guy named Michael about how apparently all girls are sluts and that he's so angry that no girl wants to date him, even though he claims to act like a complete gentleman. So he starts off by saying, "Hello? Is there an introduction board for this website? My name is Michael, and I've been reading this website for 3 days. I'm shocked to see everything I've experienced written in such a perfectly stated way. Never before have I seen a blog or media outlet so perfectly written. The writer is surely a genius. I'm amazed and relieved to see so many responses. It means I'm not alone." So to start off, he calls the writer a genius. Now this is on a blog called the Dalrock WordPress, and the writer wrote a description on the front page saying, "Thoughts from a happily married father on a post-feminist world," and he has a section called Ugly Feminist. So yeah, if this is the kind of person you regard as a genius, then that really shows the kind of person you are and how little respect you have for women. I'm 32 years old and I've never been married. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure anymore at this point, I have no kids. I'm single and alone and not dating anyone. I live in Los Angeles. My income is $120,000. And next year, my income is projected to be $170,000. Talking about how much he earns just shows how he thinks he can buy women, as if all we care about is money. He obviously doesn't have much else to offer if he decided that's the only way he's gonna get a wife. I'm exactly the kind of independent man women claim they want. I drive a luxury car with an amazing apartment in Los Angeles, directly on the beach. It's quite a panty moistener, and it costs me $6,000 per month. I work from home because an office would cost at least another $2,000 per month, and I keep in great shape. Gym 3 to 4 times a week, running, and an organic diet. I spend $700 to $900 a month on organic food and supplements. So he mentions money again. I seriously hate people that just casually mention money like that, as if it's impressive. It doesn't impress anyone, and just shows that you're a dick. I was raised in a Christian, Seventh Heaven old TV show type household. We always went to church. Strong, hard-working father figure was always present for me and my siblings. I went to a private school, university, law school, and then started my own practice at 28 years old. My parents met and married in college. They have been married for 39 years. And it hurts me to my core to be 32 and unmarried, alone, without having a wife. I feel pain from it every day. It's like a sharp, invisible dagger, constantly stabbing at me. But perhaps I'm part of the problem. Let me explain why. I went to the same college my parents met and married at. I was hoping to meet and marry and settle down. Instead, I was met with hundreds of young college-age women who were not interested in marriage. They were interested in 1, partying, and 2, having sex. College was a 24/7 fuckfest. I was an observer, but never a direct participant, because my heart would not let me. The vast majority of these young, hot girls vigorously pursued college life sex like you would not believe. They had sex with a large variety of guys, what I would call lily padding. These girls did anything and anyone in the name of fun. Fun equals party. Fun equals sex. Fun equals new people. Fun equals drugs. Fun equals raves. Fun equals frat party, etc. And it hurt me to watch these girls go out of their way to pursue and spread their legs for complete losers. Complete losers. I'm talking, hi, I work in a carnival part-time, and I'm covered in tattoos. I have no job, I failed my minimum wage drug test, and I'm in a band. These guys were losers. Some did not even go to college. They would hop on a bus with their friends and get laid that night. So he's calling these guys losers, but he's the one that can't get any girls. So really, who's the loser here? And if the entitled and sexist way he's written about women on here is anything to go by, he probably acted that way with women. Like, oh, I'm such a nice guy. You don't need to go with those losers. Come marry me and we can make a traditional Christian Seventh Heaven household together. I mean, it's really no surprise they would rather pick part-time Carnival Joe over you. Many nights I could not sleep because of the girls getting fucked hard 1, 2, 3, 4 doors down. The dorms were old military barracks from the 1940s with vents going through the ceilings. It was very loud, all the time. I remember how much it hurt me to be rejected by one girl in particular. I had my open, hopeless romantic heart set on. We had a lot in common. I pursued her like a complete gentleman and was eventually turned down. That same weekend, after being turned down, I get to hear her getting fucked hard and loud in the next room. The guy who lived there was a super scraggly, unattractive, heavy drug user covered in tattoos, majoring in music studies. This girl was young, hot, thin, and beautiful, and in her physical prime. If a man uses words like prime to describe women, you should not go anywhere near him. That is the kind of terminology you would use for farm animals, not human beings. You obviously wouldn't use that word to describe a human being you had any respect for. I would meet, trade numbers, and talk and feel a girl was a good person, and then she would do other guys. Look, if a girl was madly in love with you and you really did act like a gentleman, she obviously wouldn't go and sleep with other guys. As time went on, I was labeled husband material by girls on my campus. This phrase continued to plague me into my late 20s, and this label resulted in 0 dates all through college. Okay, I can kind of relate to this in a way. I mean, I hate when I've been single and guys have said, "Oh, you're so pretty, how come you're single?" And then I still didn't manage to get a boyfriend. Like, yeah, it is really frustrating when people are going around giving you all these compliments and no one actually wants to commit to you. So yeah, that sucks. Basically, the more of a loser the guy was, the more women he would have sex with. Hot sorority girls flocked to football players like butterflies on a beast. It didn't even matter if the guy was black. Okay, what? Like, he's trying to make us feel sorry for him, then he's just sliding in some racism? Like, seriously? One night, I had had enough. I confronted a room of 8 to 10 gorgeous white girls. These girls were 8 to 24 years old, and I asked them if they planned to get married. All of them seemed to say, more or less, yes. I asked what their future husband would think about their behavior, and I was immediately met with hostility. The way he describes it is as if he arranged this meeting and had the girls sit down while he stood and confronted them. I bet in reality he just happened to be in a room with lots of girls, like in his student accommodation or in a class where the professor was out, and he said in a whiny voice, "Oh, why won't you girls go out with me? Why did you always have to choose those athletes to treat you like a human being over me? What would your future husband think?" And like, okay, the future husband part is maybe slightly valid. Like, okay, I'm sure you wouldn't want to marry someone who slept with like 500 different people, but I highly doubt that these girls were going to that extent. And I'm not going to be controlled by someone who may or may not exist. Then I was told by Kayleen, a young, thin, super sexy blonde with curves in all the right places, who, by the way, refused to date me, even though we were friends, and according to her roommate, had sex with almost 30 guys in one semester. This just shows even more how extremely entitled he is. The way he says she refused to date him despite them being friends, and this is why some girls choose not to be friends with guys. You think you're friends, and then one day they're begging to have sex with you. Being friends obviously doesn't entitle you to sex with anyone. Also, it doesn't matter how many guys she's had sex with. It doesn't entitle him to sex with her. And men listing reasons why women should have sex with them is a really dangerous slope. So in a lot of ways, I'm glad that he hasn't managed to find a girl, because with his attitude, he really shouldn't be near any girls. Anyway, she said, "Michael, let me tell you something. Not only am I gonna have my cake and eat it too, I'm gonna have it with ice cream and sprinkles on top." All the girls laughed and smiled in agreement. I thought things would change after college. They didn't. Now at 32 and successful, these women are hitting me. Okay, this is obviously a typo, but like, he deserves to be hit by these women. So in my mind, these are the same women who rejected me, and I'm not interested. What? That makes no sense. You can't just group all women together like they were all the same. And this is so childish. It's like when a child has a tantrum because they want a toy and then they eventually get it. And then they're like, I don't want it anymore. Like, what do you want? The Bible says something to the effect of, "Don't forsake the wife of your youth." Or something like, "Remember your young wife." Something like that. How am I supposed to remember something I've never had? Okay, so he tries to quote the Bible and he can't even remember the quote. I mean, don't bother using a quote if you can't remember it. That's just so stupid. And the way he's talking about women, he doesn't exactly seem like much of a Christian. As a man, I am very visual. God made me this way. I cannot help finding a physically beautiful woman attractive. Why did these women not at least give me a few years of their youth so I would have time to fall in love with them and permanently burn their image in my mind's eye? I need something to remember when we're 50 and married. Okay, this is just insane. I had to read that over several times to believe he seriously, unironically wrote that. If when your partner gets older, you have to keep thinking about their younger self to keep being attracted to them, you definitely shouldn't be getting married. What's more likely to naturally produce a quicker pregnancy and healthy offspring? A fertile 24-year-old in her physical prime or a 35-year-old aging womb? What if I want multiple children? A woman can easily become infertile after her first pregnancy. I mean, like, yeah, he kind of has a point, but like, it's not the 1950s anymore. Women want to finish their education and be successful in their careers before having kids. So yeah, a lot of the time that does mean getting married after 30, and there's nothing too much wrong with that. As a result of everything I've seen and experienced in my life, I would like to make an announcement to all the desperate 30+ women out there. I would rather suffocate and die than spend my hard-earned income, love, trust, and substance on you. You're entitled, aging, feminist, jaded, baggage-laden, and brainwashed. And if I cannot marry a woman in her 20s, I refuse to ever get married. Okay, this reminds me of when an angry Karen screams at a minimum wage cashier that they're never coming back here, as if anyone will care. And most women would rather suffocate and die than marry a man like this. And this post was written about 8 years ago, so I sincerely hope he didn't manage to find someone to marry him, because he just seems like a horrible person. Given my high income, this should not be a problem. However, I'm concerned that at some point I will have to start looking overseas. Ukraine, Russia, the rest of Eastern Europe, etc. I'm not going to marry one of these 30+ aging entitled females who clearly have an agenda of their own. This part is just really offensive to Eastern European women. It's like he's trying to imply that they are somehow more submissive and not as strong-willed as Western women, when that couldn't be further from the truth. Eastern European women have been some of the most strongest-willed, independent women I've ever met. He's clearly just feeding into stereotypes and probably assuming he can get some sort of mail-order bride from Russia. Okay, I'm almost certain that he is lying about how much money he makes and about having his own law practice. A lot of people do that on social media platforms and forums where their profile is anonymous, thinking it will add some validity to what they're saying. I mean, you could literally claim to be a rocket scientist online, and if you didn't have your real name or any pictures, then there's not really many ways for people to prove that you're lying. Plus, I'm not trying to be insulting to anyone with dyslexia or any other learning disabilities. I totally get that you can be successful and still struggle with grammar and spelling. But with that being said, his grammar and spelling throughout this whole thing is just really bad. There are several instances where he uses the wrong form of your, and he even starts a sentence with but at one point. Well, I at least hope he's not a lawyer, since I wouldn't want someone like him representing me in court. And later on, he makes another comment. In my high-rise building, there is a single attractive girl, 28 years old, and she has less than 2 years of nectar left in her late 20s peach before 30 hits. This is the kind of thing that I could imagine a man saying in the Victorian era, but I don't even think then it would be normal. And it's very clear from this that he believes that a woman's role in society is just solely to produce babies. And he's behaving like she's a complete failure because she's 28 and doesn't have children. But what if she's a lawyer or a brain surgeon? Having children isn't the only thing that women can do with their lives. I've talked to her a few times. Her car is parked next to mine. In the interim, I've seen her paling around with at least 11 different guys in a suggestive, consummating manner since she moved in. Again, with this strange, old-timey language. I can just imagine him, this creepy, pathetic neighbor, watching her holding hands with the guy and walking to her apartment, with this pure rage in his eyes, thinking to himself that he deserves to be with her, and writing out this essay in his head to get some sympathy from fellow pathetic men. She works during the day, and to the best of my general recollection, almost any time I've been down on weekends, her car is gone. Weeknights as well. I just went downstairs to get something out of my car. It's 2:30 a.m. and her car is gone. I wonder where she could be. When someone makes an excuse completely unprompted like that, it's obvious that they are lying. He wasn't just getting something from his car at 2:30 a.m. He was purposely spying on her, and that is extremely creepy and literally stalking. And seriously, he deserves to be on some kind of police watch list for this. And it is literally none of his business where she's going or who she's sleeping with. This is such a massive invasion of her privacy. And also, she might not even be sleeping with guys. She could be out clubbing with her friends, doing some night shifts, or she could even be visiting her sick mother in hospital and sleeping in her car because it's very far away and she can't afford a hotel room. No matter what she's doing, it is absolutely none of his business. And later on in the same comment, he says, after oral, most women swallow. This really indicates to me that he's a virgin, or at least has very little experience with women. Or somehow is just lucky enough to have only ever dated women that swallow. Because I don't exactly have statistics for this, but I mean, most of my friends have said they don't swallow, and there are plenty of memes about how it's so rare to find a girl that swallows. So it really seems to me that he's just making an assumption based on porn and his own sexual fantasies. I think it could be really interesting to revisit Michael 9 years on and find out if he ever did get a wife and if his views on women have ever changed. But from reading this, it really doesn't seem hopeful for either of these things. I bet if I could find a recent post from him, it would just be more or less the same, and I doubt he will ever take accountability for why women won't date him. Anyway, that's the end of today's video. Comment down below about what you thought about it. Were any of Michael's points valid? Or is he just a misogynistic, pathetic incel? Come back next week for my next video, and I hope everyone has a great day. Bye!